Well, it's good to be back and worship with you. And I hope you've had a wonderful day so far. You've had some good eating, some good fellowshipping. And now as we gather back together, we want to sing about how awesome this God that we serve is to our conference as well as to our individual lives. So as we sing together, hear the song that says, "Our God is awesome." How many know that he's awesome? Anybody in here know that we serve an awesome God? Amen.
My God is awesome. He can move mountains, keep me in the valley, hide me from the rain. My God is awesome. Heals me when I'm broken, strength where I've been weak, and forever he will reign.
Let's say that again.
My God is awesome.
He can move mountains.
He can move mountains.
Keep me in the valley.
Keep me in the valley.
Hide me from the rain.
Hide me from the rain.
My God is awesome.
My God
and he's your God.
Awesome.
Yes.
Heals me when I'm broken. Strength where I've been weak, and forever he will reign.
Come on, let's say, my God.
My God is awesome.
Can you say it with us? Say
awesome.
Come on.
Awesome.
Somebody say that.
Awesome.
Say it again.
My God is awesome. 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 Awesome.
My God.
My God is awesome.
Savior of the
Savior
whole world.
of the whole world. Giver of salvation. By his stripes I am healed.
My God is
My
awesome.
God is awesome.
Today
I am forgiven.
His grace
is why I'm living. Praise his holy name.
Come on, let's sing.
My God is awesome.
Come on, somebody say that with us. Come on.
Awesome.
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 It's awesome.
Awesome.
Come on, my God.
My God is awesome.
He's awesome.
Awesome.
He's awesome, yeah.
Awesome.
Yes, he is.
Awesome.
Help me say this. Say, he's mighty.
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 Awesome. Yes, he is. So glad he is.
Awesome.
Say, he's holy.
He's holy.
He's holy.
He's holy.
He's holy. He's holy.
He's holy.
Awesome. Yes, he is.
Awesome.
I wish I had one witness today.
Awesome.
Hey, somebody say, he's great.
He's great.
He's a great God.
He's great.
A great king.
He's great.
Above all gods.
He's great.
Yes, he is.
Awesome.
Yes, God is so awesome. Yes, he
Awesome.
is. Somebody say he's a deliverer.
Deliverer.
He delivered Daniel. He'll deliver you and me.
Deliverer.
Yes, he will. He's awesome. Yes, he is. Oh, yes, God is.
Awesome.
That's not all I can say. He's a provider.
Provider.
A provider.
Provider.
He'll make a way
Provider.
out of no way.
Provider.
Yes, he will.
Awesome.
God is so awesome. Yes, he is.
Awesome.
Oh, that's not all. He's a protector.
Protector.
Whatever we need,
Protector.
he'll protect us.
Protector.
Yes, he is.
Protector.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yes, he is.
Awesome.
My God is awesome. He can move mountains, keep me in the valley, hide me from the rain. My God is awesome. Heals me when I'm broken, strength where I've been weakened. Praise His holy name. Somebody give God a hand praise in this place.
Is the sound? There we go. Will you please express your appreciation to Willie and the worship team for their leadership throughout this annual conference? Reverend Willie Kitchen, who is, as you know, one of our pastors and also an outstanding musician. We have an update related to the missions offering. The preliminary count is $36,000. So thank you for your generosity hosting. And now I invite to the podium Mr. David McLean for the presentation of the Board of Trustees report.
I am David McLean from Hickson United Methodist Church, Chair of the Board of Trustees. Thank you, Bishop Paul Paget. Members of this year's annual conference, I had in here good morning, but I'll say good afternoon now. It's wonderful to be here with the members of the Holston Conference of the United Methodist Church. I'd like to recognize the trustees that are here. I will ask them to stand. I guess there's one. There's a couple of them. I would also like to recognize the staff, because we put them through the ringer this past year. If they would stand. Since we last met, the trustees have made many decisions, some of which you can read in the Board of Trustees, so I will try and highlight the others. Last year, we reported that the balance on the note at the conference center in Alcoa was $737,000. The current balance at the end of May is $677,000. I would like to give the conference an update on Hiawassee College. The long process of dissolution of Hiawassee College continues. All remaining assets of the college are now held within the college endowment. The Board of Trustees of Hiawassee College have successfully concluded all operations and sold or transferred all of the college's real and personal properties, except for the assets which are appropriately still in the endowment fund. And a big thank you to Jason Gaddis for handling this. He will direct the board, and the board believes it has resolved all outstanding issues relating to the college foreclosure, with the exception of a payment of a many-year-old fine levied by the Department of Education, which the board feels is excessive and would definitely encroach on the endowment. The board is working with counsel and seeking the approval of the final dissolution from the State Attorney General for the state of Tennessee. When that approval is received, the remaining endowment assets can be transferred to the trustees of the annual conference for inclusion in the permanent endowment funds. Since this issue can only be resolved by a multi-party legal process, there's not really a date that I'd like to throw out there as to when this can be accomplished. This requires the auditors, the attorneys for both sides, the state of Tennessee, and the federal government to come together and make a decision. We'll keep working on it. Properties. The trustees have been dealing with many properties this year. Mayberry in Jonesboro, Tennessee, which has been on our books for over 10 years, it was on there when I came on the Board of Trustees, was concluded this year. There's some former trustees. The bank finally agreed to take the sale price of $35,000 and release the note for $70,000 against the vacant property and the Holston Conference. At present, there are 20 properties under trustee management, 2 of which we have options to buy on, and they are both current in their payments. 8 other properties have been sold this past year. The trustees are very happy to have reached an agreement with First Maryville United Methodist Church for an exciting new ministry using the Sycamore United Methodist properties. First United Methodist Church of Maryville has presented a plan for a comprehensive youth and student ministry center. The expansion of their recovery ministry, they'll have the space to double it. Sharing of the space there with several other local ministries. First United Methodist Church will be responsible for the current bank note that is on Sycamore, and the trustees will convey the property to the church. There will be a trust clause, there will be a disaffiliation clause, and there is a 5-year plan where the proceeds are averaged between the trustees and the church over the 5-year period. Should the process or the project be discontinued for any reason. If it's the success that we'd like to see it, they'll have the property at the end of it, and we'll have a youth center that's second to none. I must touch on a few things of insurance and safety, as safety is one of the important roles at your Board of Trustees, is to identify issues that might pose harm to your church or your property or your members. Horrible events continue to take place in our country. They're not getting any less. Each church needs to review their emergency plans to help ensure the safety of your members. Simple things that you can do in your church very easily. Prepare a current list of members that are first responders, CPR qualified, or members of the medical community. Lock any exterior doors from the outside during services to prevent somebody from coming in from one of your outside doors that is not necessary. Have a plan prepared in advance should an emergency occur. While I'm on this, I want to mention one thing that I didn't have in my notes, but I have been reading some of the reports on water damage in Tennessee, Virginia, Kentucky, and I must tell you that with the water damage reports that the insurance companies face, they're about 10 times what they had projected. We all need to be prepared by getting pipes that are exposed to the outside wrapped. Get the free monitor from Church Mutual if you don't have it. And above all, if you've got a sprinkler system, either be prepared to have it trained or have the sprinkler system company come out and make sure that you're good down to below zero. The required annual safety meeting with Church Mutual for the voluntary property and liability coverage plan was held on March the 9th. There were several claims this past year, including 2 large roofs that were removed by the wind. In spite of this, Church Mutual participating members of the voluntary plan received dividends of $214,775. I would like to try and give an update on the Boy Scouts of America and where we stand in that agreement. To refresh your memory, over this past several years, a large number of potential plaintiffs have filed or plan to file lawsuits against the Boy Scouts of America for occurrences of sexual abuse that have taken place over many decades. We grieve and our hearts are broken by the abuses that have taken place around the country over many years, and we ask for prayers for healing of these survivors, not only the ones that were in this conference, but all the conferences across the United States. The Methodist Church was one of the first and remains one of the largest supporters of scouting in America. And it continues to support and welcome scouting in its churches in a safe, healthy, and accountable manner. Because of nearly 82,000 lawsuits against the BSA, it has filed bankruptcy in the Bankruptcy Court of Philadelphia. As a part of the bankruptcy plan, a settlement was proposed for survivors of abuse to ensure accountability and compensation for their harms. This settlement fund was set at $2.4 billion, that's with a B, dollars, and is the largest settlement of sexual abuse claim in U.S. history. As a means of addressing the needs of the victims, as well as protecting our denomination's resources, limit the potential liabilities for individual churches and conferences, the United Methodist Church negotiated with the Boy Scouts of America to contribute to the settlement fund in the amount of $30 million across the entire denomination. The Holston Conference amount to contribute to the settlement fund came down to $364,168. To avoid any fundraising efforts from churches across our conference, the Holston trustees agreed to contribute $100,000. The Council on Finance and Administration agreed to contribute $100,000. And the balance of $164,000 was taken and moved into reserves for the conference to pay this when it becomes due. The Federal Bankruptcy Court approved the BSA request to accept the terms of the settlement, but the court has decided to send this over for an appeal. Nonetheless, given the likelihood of the success of the appeal, the United Methodist Church has begun funding the settlement account. In addition, and perhaps more important as to how the past is going to be handled, the United Methodist Church and the Boy Scouts of America have agreed to a new form of relationship that strengthens the protection of the Scouts to avoid the possibility of future abuses and ensures accountability for anyone participating in scouting programs. Under this new relationship, local United Methodist churches will no longer be under a charter agreement, where the local church effectively owns this local scout troop when you look at it from a legal standpoint, but instead will enter an affiliation agreement, whereby the church continues to support and provide resources for a healthy program, but minimizes the potential liabilities for doing so. These affiliation agreements also strengthen background checks, transparency, indemnification, and the vetting of leaders to make scouting as safe and rewarding as possible. I want to make sure everybody understands this next section. For these reasons, the Board of Trustees, Holston Conference, only recognize the use of the new affiliation agreement or facilities use agreements for any local church supporting the Boy Scouts of America, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, or any troop within your church. This gives you some liability protection. To be clear, to minimize the potential risk to harm the Scouts and ensuring liability of the local church, which also jeopardizes the Holston Conference, we no longer authorize any charter agreements in local churches of Holston Conference. Scouting was when I was young, and has always been a place for young people to grow in character, relationship with God, church, and community. This ensures that we can continue to support the tremendous benefits of scouting in a healthy, safe, accountable manner within Holston Conference. The last topic that I would like to discuss is disaffiliation. The Holston Conference Board of Trustees was entrusted by the United Methodist General Conference with the responsibility of setting the terms and conditions for local churches to seek disaffiliation from the United Methodist Church in accordance with paragraph 2553 of the United Methodist Book of Discipline guidelines from GCFA. Accordingly, your Board of Trustees and the disaffiliation team drafted the terms and conditions under which local churches within the Holston Conference could disaffiliate pursuant to paragraph 2553 of the United Methodist Book of Discipline. These terms and conditions were codified in a disaffiliation agreement dated October the 1st, 2022. This is the only process in place for churches in Holston Conference to disaffiliate. Local churches that met the qualifications for disaffiliation by March 6, 2023 deadline were recommended by your Board of Trustees to offer their signed disaffiliation agreements for ratification at a called conference April 22nd, 2023 meeting at Central United Methodist Church in Knoxville. All churches whose disaffiliation agreements were up for ratification were approved for disaffiliation, and their disaffiliation became effective on May the 29th of this year. Pastors who decided not to disaffiliate with their church were switched over to the district so their insurance was never interrupted. The conference will cover that insurance from the date of disaffiliation until their next appointment. The Holston Conference continues to work with disaffiliated churches to effectuate the release of the trust interest in their property, which they held on behalf of the United Methodist Church. Your Board of Trustees will continue to strive to protect the assets of Holston Conference. This past year has had several challenges, to say the least. I appreciate the support of the staff. We would have never gotten the project accomplished without them, but it is our belief that we have endured and the future is bright. The best is yet to come. Thank you.
David, many thanks to you and the Board of Trustees. You have done an extraordinary amount of work this past year to help navigate us through this season, and we are grateful for you and your leadership. We received this report as it has no action items in it, and again, we are grateful for you and your leadership. At this time, I invite Bruce Gallion back to answer a question related to equitable compensation.
Thank you, Bishop. Yesterday, a point of clarification was raised, and it was a very good point of clarification. What percentage of equitable compensation and sustentation is being used to support our churches and pastors in historical marginalized communities? The 2023, this year's conference budget for equitable compensation and sustentation is $389,000. After consultation with the cabinet, it has been determined that 42% of that budget is used to support churches and pastors in historical marginalized communities. We want to call your attention once again to our report on page 120 of the Book of Reports for more information on the eligibility guidelines and process for churches to receive conference support.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate the question that was asked yesterday afternoon, and thank you for the clarification. Yesterday, we heard from our Chair of Finance, Carolyn Kidd, and now she's going to come before us again and lead us through voting on the budget.
Good afternoon. The recommendation for the budget, proposed budget for 2024 is before you. $8,182,747. I was about to short us by $4.
Okay, that is before you. Do you have questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor, say yes. Yes. If you're opposed, no. Then the budget has been set. Thank you.
Thank you. One other motion for us.
Here's the second motion.
The Council of Finance and Administration proposes that district superintendent salaries for 2024 be set at $107,486. That is $100,007,486.
So that motion is before you. It's coming from a committee, so it does not require a second. Are there any questions? If you're in favor, say yes. Yes. If you're opposed, say no. Thank you very much. That motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Carolyn. And now, friends, we are ready to move into what typically is a lively time in our annual conference. I learned that last year. Reverend Will Cantrell, who is a member of the Committee on Petitions and Resolutions, will come and share with us the resolutions that came before the committee this year and that are now before the body. As he comes forward, I would ask that the annual conference offer a moment of thanks and appreciation for John Eldridge. After John has been the face of petitions and resolutions in this annual conference for a number of years, 12 years to be exact. And though he loves this work, he feels that it's time to pass it on to the next generation. And so, John, again, we are grateful for you and your ministry across so many years and how you continue to be in ministry. And now I'll turn to Will.
Bishop Wallace Padgett, members of the Holston Annual Conference, friends, On behalf of our esteemed chairperson, John Eldridge, and the wonderful members of the Committee on Petitions and Resolutions, I come forward to bring you their report. The work of petitions and resolutions is crucial, yet it is neither simple nor easy. The committee has worked diligently and faithfully. And at this time, I'd like to ask the committee members to please stand so that they can be recognized. As we prepare for the sacred and difficult work before us, let us remember the notes John Wesley made in his journal on October 6, 1774, when he recorded, quote, "I met those of our society who had votes in the ensuing election and advised them, 1, vote without fee or reward for the person or petition judged most worthy. 2, speak no evil of the person or petition you vote against. And 3, to take care their spirits were not sharpened against those that voted on the other side." 3, to take care that their spirits were not sharpened against those that voted on the other side. My mother, may God's infinite blessings be upon her, somehow survived my teenage years with her sanity intact. And during those tumultuous years, she would often say to me, "Will, I do not like to raise my voice, but I want you to know that when I tell you something 3 times, I'm yelling at you." With that in mind, I would remind you, 3, to take care that their spirits were not sharpened against those that voted on the other side. When preparing our report and recommendations, the Committee on Petitions and Resolutions looks for ways to accomplish the purposes of the authors of the resolutions, so long as the resolutions appear in line with our rules, our theology, and our mission. Sometimes in our report, you may hear the committee suggest an amendment that we believe would strengthen a resolution, but the committee cannot bring forward that amendment. Only you can do that, the members of the annual conference. The committee's recommendations are just that, recommendations. The ultimate judgment is rightfully left to you, the annual conference. The recommendations do not represent the exact personal opinions of every member of the committee or of myself. They represent the consensus of the committee within its meeting. And this year, as we look at our resolutions, it is my understanding, Bishop Wallace-Padgett, that we will be voting directly on the resolutions.
That is correct.
Not on the recommendations of the committee. The recommendations of the committee are solely for your information. Now, though the time in the agenda set aside for petitions and resolutions may be only a small portion of the entirety of our time together, how we relate to one another during this time in the life of our annual conference over the next hour has a lot to do with the experience of love and unity, or lack thereof, that we have within our annual conference. With that knowledge, I would remind you of the scriptural admonition which you already know from Ephesians 4:15 that tells us to speak the truth in love. And I would ask us to remember today that you can only speak the truth in love when you are also committed to listening to one another in love. Proverbs 19:11 tells us it is the glory of humanity to not take offense. Today, in our discussions, there may be times when someone uses vocabulary that you consider less than eloquent and perhaps even less than appropriate. In those times, I would ask you to listen for the intention of the person's heart, not just the words that come to their mind. There may be moments today when someone's righteous passion causes them to come across to you in what you would term an overly aggressive style, in those moments, I would ask you to listen for the content of their ideas rather than to immediately condemn them for their argumentative manner. And there may be moments today when someone comes forward with ideas that you believe are wrong as the day is long. And when that happens, I would ask you to respond out of the assumption that they too have given their lives to following a rabbi from Nazareth, whose teachings alone are right as the rain that falls from Appalachian skies. And with a shared commitment now to speak to one another in love and to listen to one another in love, I invite us to embark on the work of petitions and resolutions. You can find our report on page 148 in the book of reports. As we go through the resolutions, I will be reading to you the therefores. I will not be reading to you the whereases. Most petitions and resolutions begin with multiple reasons that they have been brought forward. We trust you to have read those and to be up to date on the reasons. I will read to you from this stage the recommendations of what they are asking for. Then I will share with you the committee's thoughts in response to these resolutions, and then our bishop will lead us in considering them together. Resolution 1, found on page 148, was submitted by the Holston Conference Extended Cabinet. I pick up with, now, therefore, the Holston Conference resolves that if there are changes made at the 2024 General Conference related to human sexuality that cause our local churches to believe it is untenable to continue as United Methodist churches, the Holston Conference and its trustees commit within the parameters of the Book of Discipline to seek a gracious, fair, and non-punitive separation process for such local churches at least through December 31, 2024. It is further resolved that the Holston Conference resolves to continue working to advance legislation that provides such a gracious, fair, and non-punitive separation process to be considered at the next session of General Conference, and to work collaboratively with the other annual conferences to build consensus concerning proposed legislation that would fulfill the aspirations of this resolution. The Committee on Petitions and Resolutions concurs with this resolution. We believe it is the extended cabinet's way of expressing their desire to have a gracious, fair, and non-punitive process going forward. We believe it is aspirational and does not prescribe anything that would go against or encourage us in any way to go against the Book of Discipline or future clauses that may be put into the Book of Discipline. Our conference invitation team has encouraged us to be a conference that respects and intentionally creates a space for traditional and progressive voices. We believe this furthers that trust, and we concur with the resolution.
So this is before you, and we are voting on the resolution, either yes or no. Are there any questions or any comments related to the resolution? Okay. Over here, if you would go to the microphone, please, and state your name and also where you serve. And if you will also state whether you're speaking for or against the motion or the resolution.
Thank you, Bishop.
Yes.
My name is Dan Young. I'm from Scenic South District, Pikeville United Methodist Church. And I'm speaking against this with much love and understanding why it was brought up this way. But I think we're taking the cart before the horse. I think there's a big, huge elephant in the room that's kept us for too long from completely focusing on our mission, our discipleship, doing what we should be doing as followers of Christ, taking care of the least of these, those who are lonely and pain and suffering because of the elephant in the room. And that is the church's choosing to disenfranchise. It's caused a lot of pain. I have a great friend, served this conference 42 years, served on the Global Board of Finance, trustee chair, many churches. 2 of the churches he served disenfranchised. It broke his heart. We haven't spoken a lot about the people who have been hurt by all this on the other side of the equation. It brings me to tears now. We will always be an open-armed congregation, a conference of love, of putting Jesus Christ first, of giving grace. But the date of May 31st, 2024, as I said before, to me, puts the cart before the horse. I would like to put a motion, if I'm allowed.
So you cannot make a motion after making a speech. However, you have made a speech,
Yes.
and that is a speech against, and we receive that. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, is there someone who wants to speak for the resolution? And we will go back and forth between for and against speeches. We, according to our standing rules, have the opportunity for 3 speeches for and 3 against, and those speeches are limited to 2 minutes each. And thank you again, Mr. Young, for what you had to share. Okay, over here.
I'm Jonathan Jonas from the Smoky Mountain District, clergy member, and as a conference trustee, I would like to speak in favor of this resolution. Our conviction is that the spirit of paragraph 2553, as adopted by the 2019 General Conference, was to allow congregations time after the 2020 General Conference to make decisions and to enter into discernment. Since that General Conference was not able to occur, our belief is that we are keeping the spirit of that legislation from 2019 by extending this 1-year commitment to seek a way to allow for graceful, non-retributive, non-punitive disaffiliation. I believe this is an important commitment to keep to the people of the Holston Conference who may not yet be at a place where, in the words of John Wesley, their hearts are clear in regards to their convictions and their conscience congregationally about human sexuality. And I believe it's important for us to keep that commitment of graceful, non-punitive opportunities for disaffiliation should anything change in the 2024 General Conference that makes their position and their conviction one that's no longer one that they can hold in good faith as United Methodists. So I believe this is a graceful way to honor the commitment that we made in 2019.
Thank you, Jonathan. So that is a speech in favor. We've had 1 speech in favor and 1 against. Does someone else have a speech to make? Are you ready to vote? Okay. If you are in favor of this resolution, say yes. Yes. If you are opposed, say no. No. The resolution carries. I'll turn it back to you, Will.
Resolution 2, titled Resolution in Support of a U.S. Regional Conference, is found on page 149. We pick up with the therefores. Therefore, it is submitted by the group UMC Next Holston. Beginning with the therefores. Therefore, be it resolved that the Holston Conference supports the expressed intents of the Christmas Covenant and connectional table legislation, including the creation of regional conferences in Africa, Europe, the Philippines, and the U.S. respectively. And be it further resolved that the Holston Conference recognizes and supports the leadership of our central conferences in the creation and furtherance of the Christmas covenant, as well as the connectional table's future visioning on behalf of our worldwide fellowship. And be it further resolved that the Holston Conference urges the Council of Bishops to expedite the process of voting on the constitutional amendments necessary to enact the regional conferences legislation, calling special sessions of annual conferences where necessary. The Committee on Petition and Resolutions concurs with this resolution. The committee sees this as a way of encouraging the United Methodist Church to seek geographical representation within the United Methodist Church that is equal and is appropriate. We see it as aspirational, not prescriptive to the General Conference.
This resolution is before you. Is there any discussion? Okay, there's a question. And if you will move back to the microphone. Yes, microphone 1. And state your name and where you serve.
Bishop Lisa Nichols, I'm a deaconess serving in the Mountain View District. What does this mean logistically?
What this would mean logistically, and I would encourage you to study, which can be found in its entirety online, the Christmas covenant and some of these suggestions by the connectional table. But logistically, what it does is it creates a U.S. regional conference that in some ways mirrors the conferences that exist outside the United States at this time.
So does that mean the end of the Holston Conference?
No, this would be a regional United States conference made up of what that would be under our current jurisdictions, where we would come and there would be certain opportunities we would have to set policy within the United States that is similar to what other areas of the world currently have within their areas of the world.
Okay, thank you for that information.
That was a good question. Thank you, Lisa. Is there other discussion? Are you ready to vote? If you are in favor of Resolution 2, which is in support of a U.S. regional conference, say aye. Aye. If you are opposed, say no. No. Okay, let's do a... I think I know what the answer is on this, but I want to make sure. So we're going to do a standing vote, okay? Are the ushers ready to count? You ready? So this is Resolution 2 before you. If you are in favor of Resolution 2, please stand. So I'd ask the ushers, has everybody been counted? Are you ready? Okay, then you may be seated. And now I would ask those who are opposed to Resolution 2 to stand. Have the ushers finished counting? Okay, you may be seated then. So there were 545 persons who voted. 443 voted yes, and 102 voted no. So this resolution carries. The question has been asked about who is eligible to vote, and persons who are members of the annual conference are eligible to vote. Persons who are either the lay representative of your church or a clergy person. And the ushers know that by your name tags. And so that is how we know who is eligible to vote. Will, we'll turn to you for Resolution 3.
Resolution 3, found on page 150, is titled Leading with Integrity. It was submitted by UMC Next Holston. We pick up with the therefores. Therefore, be it resolved that the Holston Conference expresses both respect and gratitude to those who have voluntarily stepped away from positions of leadership as they journey away from membership in the United Methodist Church. Be it further resolved that as we continue this period of transition, the Holston Conference calls upon every United Methodist as a disciple of Jesus the Christ to move forward in fairness and with integrity. Be it further resolved that the Holston Conference asks all lay and clergy members who intend to disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church to recuse themselves from leadership roles in all areas of the church, including the local church, district, conference, jurisdictional, general church level committees, boards, agencies, delegations, and Episcopal leaders. Be it further resolved that we encourage the Holston Conference Board of Trustees to develop codes of conduct to manage conflicts of interest that may arise around discussions of disaffiliation agreements. The committee expressed concern that this resolution might be moot by the time of this annual conference, given the disaffiliations that have also already taken place, and also concern that the final be it further resolved directing the Board of Trustees to develop codes of conduct could be somewhat ambiguous. However, the committee's consensus was to concur with this resolution.
So this resolution, resolution number 3, is before you. Is there discussion? Okay, if you will go to microphone 2. State your name, church, and if you're speaking for or against.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Bloomberg. I am from Gray United Methodist Church in the Three Rivers District. I also am a member of the group UMC Next Holston. I'm speaking for it. First of all, I would like to point out that this has already passed in all 5 regional or jurisdictional conferences in 2022. And even though there was the concern that it would be moot, the passing of Resolution 1 now makes it valid again. Because if there's some churches after General Conference 2024 that decide to disaffiliate before December 31st, 2024, we'll have an annual conference in between then. And if people do not want to stay in the United Methodist Church, they should not be allowed to be in the conference next year and vote and have a say in how we intend to move forward. So I ask that you vote for this.
Thank you, Amy. So that is a speech for. Is there a speech against? Okay, back here. And if you'll move to microphone 2.
I really have a question.
Okay.
State
your
I'm
name.
sorry, John Stroud. I'm from the Mountain View District.
Okay, John.
Says another concern is, be it resolved, and that clause is anything but clear. And the committee is concerned about its ambiguity. Doesn't say the committee approved it. Said it's concerned about its ambiguity.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So could you tell me where's the committee going on this?
Okay, Will?
I think the committee, which cannot bring an amendment, but would like language or discussed the possibility of language to say managing conflicts of interest specifically and only related to disaffiliation agreements a little bit stronger.
Did that answer your question? No? Okay. You want to try again, Will?
The best I can do is tell you I think there was ambiguity within the committee on what to do with the last be it further resolved, and therefore, since my first explanation was not adequate at expressing the ambiguity in the committee, I would simply put it before you, the annual conference. If you are concerned with the ambiguity within that clause, please bring an amendment that you think addresses it. If you are not concerned with the ambiguity in that clause, please deal with the entire content of the resolution.
Thank you, Will. Is there other discussion? We've had one speech for. Is there a speech against? Oh. Is this a speech against? I remember you from last year. Please go to the microphone, and we'd love to hear from you. Microphone 1, state your name and church.
Doug Fairbanks. I understand that I'm at an undisclosed place in South Georgia. But
He's serving as an interim, that's right.
now, what I get out of this concern is that all across our jurisdiction, unfortunately, there are persons who are disaffiliating, going to other places, but are choosing to keep their membership at the United Methodist Church, which voted not to disaffiliate, so that they can come back and vote at some point. This is a very real concern. And so I'm for whatever safeguards we can put in place to help people who have been calling upon us to act with integrity, for them to search their consciences and hearts and act with integrity as well. So.
Thank you, and I'm going to consider that a speech for. So we've had 2 speeches for. Are there any speeches against? Okay, over here, please go to the microphone.
Yeah, there's a lady right behind microphone 3 that's trying to...
Okay, behind microphone 3, and thank you for your graciousness. I did not see you, but let's hear from you.
Well, I have a question, and I wasn't sure if you were considering questions at this
Yes,
time.
we will, and please state your name and where you're from.
My name is Marcia Parsons, and I'm from Asbury United Methodist Church in Greenville. And my question is about the implementation of this rule in the event it carries. The resolution says that members who intend to disaffiliate are required to recuse themselves. So is there a time when that intention is made known? So how would we know that they intend to disaffiliate?
Thank you, Reverend Cantrell.
I don't think within the legalities and policies we currently have, there would be a time when they would declare necessarily that intention prior to disaffiliation. I think, and I do not want to speak for those who have brought this forward, but the understanding of the committee was that this was more of an encouragement of an honor code in that regard.
Okay, thank you for the question. Are there any speeches against this resolution? Yes, over here. I was over here, the gentleman in the, I think that's orange. Is that the color here in Tennessee? It's one of the colors in Tennessee. And I just want to declare again, you've heard me say this, I root for the SEC.
Thank you, Bishop. Ken Tucker, Smoky Mountain District, pastor at Wares Valley United Methodist Church. I look around this auditorium today, and I see a lot of people, or I don't see a lot of people, I should say. Friends, family, people that I have ministered with through the years that are no longer here in this auditorium with us. I wonder if this resolution would be more divisive than it would be protective. Have you ever changed your mind, Bishop?
Yes, I have.
Maybe there are people that have been in the midst of the heated debates and have made decisions that maybe they regretted. I understand that the Southeastern jurisdiction and other jurisdictions have voted on this, and I understand the idea of being a safety net. But I want us to consider today when we talk about the grace of Jesus Christ and trust wanting each other in this conference. It seems through these last few years, trust has been something that has faltered and failed. And we have lost many because of it. But I wonder if we might consider today in this conference that if we didn't pass this resolution, that it might be a show of grace to our brothers and sisters, our churches that may have made a decision to leave but didn't go through the process, that they might change their minds. That we might
Thank
say,
you, Mr. Tucker. Your 2 minutes are up.
I'm sorry,
So
I'm a pastor.
we'll give you 5 more seconds.
Okay, thank
Five
you.
more seconds.
So I would say, let us show grace. Let us show grace.
Okay, thank you. So that's 2 speeches in favor and 1 against. Is there another speech against? We have 2 in favor. Is there another one against? Yes, over here. And if you'll go to microphone 1.
Stephen Yaney, I'm at St. John in the Smoky Mountain District, and I would vote against this for much the same reasons that Brother Ken was speaking of. I think this shows a great mistrust that we are putting in our fellow brothers and sisters. As we've been going through this last year or so with churches deciding to disaffiliate, I can tell you in particular of people I'm friends with that were serving in conference positions on conference committees that had high integrity in what they were doing, even though they knew they were disaffiliating. And I think this shows a great distrust on our part that we won't trust in them to do what is the right thing to do in terms of the conference. We're all still United Methodists. And I don't think at this point in time we should be disenfranchising anyone who's still United Methodist until they decide and actually go through the process that they're not. Because what we're saying then is, even though you are still United Methodist, you don't have a say in what this conference does. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's a speech against. We've had 2 speeches for and 2 against. Does anyone else wish to speak? Yes. Microphone 2.
Scott Wilkes, Memorial United Methodist Church in the Tennessee Valley District. And it's actually a question. Is the trustees the proper avenue to take this for discernment? Would this not better be suited to go to the Board of Ordained Ministry or to the district superintendent?
What is your committee's perspective on that, Will?
Our committee's perspective was that because of their responsibilities, the trustees were the proper group. That is just our committee's perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Does anyone else want to? Yes, over here. Thank you. And if you'll go to microphone 3, state your name and where you're from, and if the speech is in favor or against.
Laura Razor, I'm from Clinch Mountain District. Could I propose an amendment? I need help here and guidance
Yes,
here.
you may.
I propose that the last be further resolved that involves the Board of Trustees, that be removed.
Okay, so we have an amendment before us that the last be it further resolved is removed. Is that correct? Okay,
Yes.
Laura. And we have a second. Is there any discussion? Did you want to make a comment about that, Laura? Did you want to make a speech for it?
Sure. I guess I appreciate the spirit of the resolution and everything, but it feels, as folks have mentioned, punitive. It feels like we're afraid, mistrust, having the honor system attitude of it feels more comfortable to me.
Okay, so that's a speech for the amendment. Is there a speech against it? And thank you very much, Laura. Does anyone want to speak against the amendment? Are you ready to vote on the amendment? So the amendment simply eliminates the second, be it further resolved. The last, be it further resolved. Thank you for catching that. And Laura, we will remind you that it will be helpful for you to put your amendment in writing and get it to Terry. All in favor of the amendment, say yes. Yes. If you're opposed, say no. The yeses carry. So we are back to the resolution as amended. And we've had one speech or two speeches in favor and two speeches against. Does anyone else want to speak? Yes, over here. If you'd go to microphone 4.
So I'm Russell George with First United Methodist in Maryville, and I don't have for or against, but I was curious if the position of the two gentlemen who spoke against change with this amendment.
Okay, that is a really good question. It is not in order to ask it, but thank you for asking it.
But I am curious if...
I understand,
Yeah,
but it's
okay.
not in order for you to ask the question. So thank you very much. Okay. Is there a speech for or against? Okay. Against, over here? Okay, please go to microphone 1.
Evan Clark, serving on the Dungannon Circuit in the Appalachian District. To kind of help with answering his question, even though I didn't speak beforehand, I'm still against it as amended for what the other two gentlemen said earlier. So.
Okay. So that's a speech against. And someone standing over here, did you want to speak for the amendment? Or excuse me, for the resolution?
I want to make a motion.
Okay, let's hear your motion.
I think since this deals with 2024.
Well, excuse me, just a moment though.
My name, I forgot.
That's-
Sorry, Bishop.
That's okay.
I'm Greg Fletcher. I serve in the Appalachian District. I move that being this motion won't really need to be in effect till 2024, that we table it until the next annual conference and let the original writer of the resolution bring it back with more stronger and distinct language.
Okay, so I think what you want to do, and please make sure I'm correct on this, I think what you want to do is to postpone it indefinitely. You cannot table it to the next annual conference.
Yes, that'll be.
But you would like to postpone it indefinitely, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a second to this motion? Second. Okay, so this is properly before you. The motion is to table this resolution or postpone this resolution indefinitely, and it's had a second. It is debatable. It is not amendable, and it needs a majority vote. Is there discussion on this motion to postpone indefinitely? Okay, over here. Please go to microphone 4, state your name and church and whether you're for or against.
My name's Julie George. I go to First United Methodist Church, Maryville, in the Smoky Mountain District.
Thank you, Bishop. I do believe that postponing this indefinitely would serve the needs of both sides. I think that the kindness and generosity of spirit that the nays have presented has got merit, although I do believe that this conference has work to do, and we need people here to work. So I'm also, if I were forced to vote now, I would be voting yes. But I think tabling it would also demonstrate an appeasement to both sides. But I also would very much like to know what the scope of the problem would be. And I'm not sure that present company would be able to answer that. But if this is simply a case of there's not very many people, even 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 might not be such a problem that we would need to bring such a motion at all. I think that would be a minimal problem, that this would send the wrong message to a great many people. I hope that that's a clear enough statement to say that I think that we really should table this.
Thank you very much. So Julie is speaking for postponing this indefinitely. Is there a speech against postponing it indefinitely? Are you ready to vote? Okay, so the motion is to postpone Resolution 3 indefinitely. All in favor, say yes. Yes. If you're opposed, say no. No. So let's do this. If we're going to need to do a show of name tags, okay? And the ushers are coming forward. And I would ask that if you are in favor of postponing Resolution 3 indefinitely, then please lift your name tag.
You can do a show of hands vote without having the tellers count if you want to try it first.
Okay. Can you tell, though? It looks... Okay, thank you. The ushers have all completed the counting, I believe. All right. If you are against postponing Resolution 3 indefinitely, please lift your hands. tell me when it's all done, though, right? Which one on the nose? We're going to ask those in section 5 who are voting no to please stand. If you will stand in section 5 if you're voting no.
I think if they're going to count.
You may be seated now. Is that it? Okay. So the vote is in. We had 548 votes. 313 voted to postpone indefinitely. 235 voted to not postpone indefinitely. So Resolution 3 has been postponed indefinitely. And now we will turn to Resolution 4.
Resolution 4 can be found on page 151. It is titled Call to Center Justice and Empowerment for LGBTQIA plus people in the UMC. It has been submitted by Danny Toller of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Picking up with the therefores. Therefore, be it resolved that the 2023 Holston Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church supports and amplifies the call to justice and empowerment for the LGBTQIA plus community in our conference, within and beyond our churches, organizations, and institutions. affirms the spirit of abeyance and moratorium as proposed to the General Conference as referenced above until changes can be made in the United Methodist Book of Discipline. 3, aspires to a future of the United Methodist Church where LGBTQIA plus people will be protected, affirmed, and empowered in the life and ministry of the church in our conference jurisdiction, including as laity, clergy, in the episcopacy, and on boards. The committee had concerns expressed by some within the committee that there were portions of this resolution which would be out of line with the current standards within the Book of Discipline. The overall consensus, however, was that it was once again more aspirational than prescriptive, and that it was another way of trying to make space for both traditional and, in this instance, progressive voices within the Holston Conference. And so the overall consensus of the committee was to concur.
Resolution 4 is before you. Is there discussion? Okay, thank you. Microphone 1, state your name, your church.
I speak in favor. My name is, now be it resolved, it's not Tuller, it's Touye.
I apologize.
No worries, I get called that all the time. Danny Touye from St. Elmo United Methodist Church in beautiful Chattanooga, Tennessee, Scenic South District. My pronouns are he, him, and my partner is Keith Walker. His pronouns are he, him. And being gay, what's funny, people ask you some questions a lot, like, Danny, when did you become gay? I'm like, I've been gay since Jesus wore sandals. It's been forever. And then they ask me, Danny, how can you stay in a denomination that persecutes you? And do y'all know that the teenage demographic that has the highest suicide rate is the LGBTQ plus community? It's the queer community. Our teenagers, our queer youth are killing themselves. And you want to know why? Look at the Book of Discipline. Look how they say we're incompatible with Christian teaching. I like to give them a positive answer. I don't like negative talk. So I talk about our Wesleyan heritage, how I came from a Pentecostal church God background. When I walked into St. Elmo United Methodist Church, how the people loved me, embraced me, encouraged my spiritual faith, how I've grown to become a certified lay minister in Holston Conference, to be able to go forth and preach the gospel message as a lay person. Hopefully one day we can do that as ordained people. So I always talk positive. I don't tell them about the negative thoughts, like that scripture that's running through my mind. I keep it to myself. But I think of that scripture. Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table. Folks, I'm tired of being a dog. I'm tired of being treated like a dog by the United Methodist Church and the BOD. We are better than this. Let us go forth and show the world that we can make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world for all people. Let us show the world that we are United Methodist, united in love, united in love, united in love, that we are Holston Conference. Amen.
So that's a speech for the resolution, and I would ask that we not applaud speeches. I've also been appreciative that you've not applauded when the vote outcomes were named. It helps us to be more united as we work through this when we listen respectfully to one another and do not applaud. Okay, that's one speech. 4, resolution 4, over here, microphone 2.
John Stroud from the Mountain View District, and I have a question.
Okay.
I have been told as a lay rep for a number of years that I cannot, as a conference member or as a member of my church, poll my members of my church, or like this group, poll and that as a conference, we're not supposed to tell our delegates as a conference how to vote. Now, I can be wrong about that, but I just want to ask the question, is it apropos for a conference to tell our delegates how to vote at the 2024 conference? Thank you.
My understanding is that a conference can express its wishes, but a conference cannot bind the vote of any delegate.
There is a judicial council decision that says the annual conference doesn't have the authority to direct the delegate.
Thank you for your question, and thank you for your response. Over here, okay. Yes, if you would come to the microphone. State your name and church, and if you're speaking for or against the motion, please.
I'm Dave Gass. I'm the pastor at, Oneida, Rugby Road in Tennessee Valley District. I'm speaking against. I am not, my youngest son tells me I shouldn't be that guy, but I am opposed to this resolution, not necessarily not because of the aspiration to support our LGBTQI plus brothers and sisters, but just because of some of the language in it. I have always felt that the General Conference speaks for the United Methodist Church. And in the first whereas, it says, in a response to the passage of harmful legislation by the General Conference in 2019, I don't see how, if the church speaks for us, we should say that it has been, what they passed is harmful. That's what the church believes, according to our polity. The other objection I have is that we are affirming the spirit of abeyance or moratorium proposed to the General Conference as referenced above until changes can be made in the United Methodist Book of Discipline. That could be in 2024, that could be in 2028, that could be 100 years down the line. It just says we're going to do what we want to do regardless of what the Book of Discipline says until we can change it to suit the way we want it. And I would object to this. I would vote no on this resolution for those reasons.
Thank you. So that is a speech against resolution number 4. Yes. Microphone 2, state your name and your church.
Valerie Oley from Union Grove in Blount County, and I'm speaking for the resolution. We keep putting this thing off, and I minister to the LGBTQ community in Blount County, and I have a pretty significant online ministry too, 4,400 people on one of the social media platforms. And I know that everybody kind of goes, yeah, that's not a ministry. It's that ministry where I spend the most time with people who are now living in fear, fleeing places like Florida, worried here, threatening suicide because people won't stand up for them, and because of the kinds of laws that we passed right here in Tennessee and said nothing to. If we pass this resolution, what we're doing, is telling this community, hey, we have to abide by the Book of Discipline until it changes, but we're on your side. And they need to know that we're on their side. I had a lady just the other day say to me, she's a lesbian, she's married, she's maybe in her mid-30s. No one had ever said to her, You are a beloved child of God, loved by God, until I did. As long as we continue to say no to resolutions like this, we are sending a message that they're incompatible, we don't love them, and frankly, the only thing incompatible with Christian teaching should be hate. That's the only thing in the world. And when we call a whole group of people incompatible, we're saying we don't love them, we hate them. Unlove was Wesley's definition of sin. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was a speech for resolution number 4. Yes? Sure. Go to microphone 2, if you will. Okay.
Amy Bloomberg, Three Rivers and Gray United Methodist Church. I'm speaking for, and I would like to address the comments that the other gentleman made. First of all, I don't think this is going against the Book of Discipline because it doesn't say that it's going to be that way. It says aspires. It says that we should aspire to include them. It says support and amplify. It says affirms the spirit. This is an emotional way of including our LGBTQ brothers and sisters and showing them that we do love them. This is not going against the Book of Discipline. I also would like to point out that this resolution also was adopted by all 5 of the 2022 jurisdictional conferences. So if it did go against the Book of Discipline, I think that they would have discovered that then.
So that is a speech for resolution number 4. Is there another speech against? Okay, back here. And if you'll come to microphone 1.
So Amy has now spoken twice, so she can't speak again.
And if you'll state your name and church, and if you're speaking for or against.
My name is Richard Rudisil, and I'm in the Smoky Mountain District at Tuckaloosa, UMC. Actually, I just have a question.
Okay.
And this is a question I've been getting from a lot of people in my congregation, as well as actually from beyond my congregation, including some who would agree with the spirit of what Danny is asking us to do here today. The question is this an attempt by the annual conference to override the will of a general conference, and not only that, a jurisdictional conference to override the will of a general conference? And you've kind of touched on that a little bit, but if it's only aspirational, then I think the further question that they have now would then be, what is the point of a non-binding resolution that does not actually perform any action? Because a few years ago, we were asked to only bring forth resolutions that actually called our conference to some sort of action. So I know some of them are watching today and would probably like some clarification on that. So if you could provide that, that would be great.
Thank you.
I think the committee had the same concerns within it and questions as some of your people had expressed, and that same debate took place within the committee, and ultimately the majority of the committee felt that it was aspirational, and that's why it's been passed forward.
Okay, so thank you for the questions. We've had 3 speeches for and 1 against. Does anyone else want to speak against? Yes. Go to microphone 1, if you will.
Mickey Rainwater, Smoky Mountain District. I would just call our attention to the second piece of this that calls us to affirm a spirit of abeyance or moratorium. As I understand that, to indulge a spirit of abeyance or moratorium would potentially be to deprive due process in a place where a charge might be brought There is probably little, if no other area, in which we would be supportive of depriving any body, whether we're talking an individual or whether we're talking about a group of people, of due process. That is one of our values within the United Methodist Church, is due process. I believe that number two, even though it is aspirational, aspirational things get into our hearts and into our minds as they should. We all aspire to something. But when we move in a direction of depriving or not following due process, then we're also on slippery slope there as well. So I speak against the resolution as written.
That is a second speech against. We've had 3, 4. Is there another speech against resolution number 4? Okay, there's a question. Please come to microphone 1. State your name and where you serve.
Good evening or afternoon, Holston. My name is Evelyn Harris. I am clergy at St. Luke United Methodist in the sensational Scenic South District. My question of clarification was speaking to Mickey's stance or speech against. Am I confused in thinking, or did we not pass last year at this annual conference an aspirational moratorium on clergy trials? Which we know as an annual conference is aspirational because that trial process and that due process that Mickey is speaking to is totally up to the cabinet. Did we do that?
We're seeking an answer to your question. We're not ignoring it. So thank you. And
well, I'm asking because I didn't know. I
right.
can't remember either.
But regardless, that does not negate Mickey's point.
Right.
So, but we're looking. We will need to research that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
There was a resolution on moratoriums, but we'd have to get the journal.
And there was a resolution on moratoriums last year. We just don't have that resolution in front of us in terms of the specificity of exactly what it said. So thank you for your question. Good question. Is there another speech against? We've had 3 speeches, 4 and 2 against. Okay, over here. And if you'd come to microphone 2.
My name's Beverly Smith. I'm from the Appalachian District, and I'm speaking of how I feel. I'm not speaking on the technical aspects of this.
And are you speaking against the resolution?
I am.
Okay, then let's hear what you have to say.
We have a young lady in our church who grew up in our church, and she is a lesbian. And she brings her partner to church, and we love them both. We don't tell them what they can and cannot do. We don't, and they, at the same time, don't tell us what they expect from us. They love us, and they accept our love. And I think trying to force this whole thing is wrong. And I feel like this is what's tearing the Methodist Church apart. And if we don't take into consideration other feelings besides the gentleman that wants to have his partner with him all the time and flaunt it in front of people, then we need to be careful.
So and that's a speech against resolution number 4. So thank you.
One more.
Okay.
Can I, one more?
You have a few more seconds.
If this continues into my church, I will be leaving the United Methodist Church. And there are other people in our church who are feeling the same way.
So that's a speech against, and we've had 3 speeches for and 3 speeches against, so we're ready to vote.
Do you want to answer the question about the resolution from last year?
Okay.
So this is the vote on the resolution on the moratorium was 53% yes.
Okay, so our conference secretary is going to respond to the question about last year's resolution.
If I'm reading the correct one, which was resolution number 1, moratorium on church trials in the Holston Conference, be it therefore resolved, stated, the Holston Annual Conference encouraged the bishop, the Holston Conference Board of Ordained Ministry, and district committees on ministry to delay punitive actions on church trials relative to violations of the discipline paragraph 341.6 and discipline paragraph 304.3 until the first Holston Annual Conference following the delayed 2020 General Conference and or the 2024 General Conference to give clergy time to evaluate their moral and spiritual beliefs in light of changes that may occur at the delayed 2020 General Conference and or the 2024 General Conference affecting the Book of Discipline. That was debated heavily, and in the end, 684 votes were cast, yes votes 361, no votes 323. That resolution was adopted.
So that's an answer to the question about last year's resolution. What we have before us today is Resolution 4. So we will go ahead and vote. All in? Yes.
Micah Nicholas, Hiawassee District. Bishop, I'd just ask for a ruling of the chair if this motion's in order, especially coming from the Petitions Committee. And I would like to know, I'd be interested to know what the split on the Petitions Committee or the Resolutions Committee was. If it was split, was it 50-50? And then a ruling of the chair, is this in order? And does it follow church law?
Okay, thank you, Micah. Micah, thank you very much for that question. So the piece about how the committee viewed it in terms of the breakout of the vote, you're not asking for who voted how, but the breakout of the vote is proper, and so Will, I would ask that you respond to that.
There was a majority of the committee that voted for concurrence. Within that, the way in which the committee conducted its business was through discussion, and rather than having a formal Robert's Rules of Order, when in the discussion it became apparent that there was a significant majority, those who had a differing viewpoint allowed for this opinion, recognized it was going to go forward. So we did, I don't have an exact count on you, for you with that.
Okay. And then in terms of, is this resolution proper? It's properly before us. It has gone through the process that we utilize. Our Petitions and Resolutions Committee has looked at it, and you have heard their response. So it is properly before us. And we are ready to take a vote. Is this another question? Okay.
Nancy Thrasher from the Tennessee Valley District. On page 152, the second to the last paragraph of your response has the word B-U-Y, and it should be B-Y. And it's been bugging me the whole time we've been sitting here, so I just had to get that off my chest. Thank you.
Okay. We will consider that an editorial comment. Okay, and do you receive that?
My sister, who is an English professor, thanks you profusely.
Okay. All in favor then, say aye. Aye. If you're opposed, say no. No. Okay. Let's do a show of hands. If you're in favor of resolution number 4, lift your hands, please. If you're opposed, lift your hands. Okay, we're going to count. Resolution 4 is before you. The ushers are going to their places. If you're in favor of resolution number 4, please stand. Yes, you may sit if you've been counted. If you are opposed to resolution number 4, please stand.
I told Terry that I propose next year would Ms. Gandra. And then in the middle, it's always kind of a mix. And because you can't see all the way down to the front of that far section over here, it's hard to tell when you're just scanning the room. Folks.
What's the percentage? Can you tell? All right, here are the results, and will you express your appreciation to our ushers? They are working hard this afternoon. Resolution 4 passed. We had 562 overall votes, 339 voted yes, 223 voted no. That was 60% yes and 40% no. We have time for one more resolution, and then we will be finished with resolutions for today and tomorrow and until next year. So, Will.
Bishop, if it pleases the chair, the Committee on Resolutions, when we considered our work, asked that if time ran out, because we recognize the importance of some of the ideas in these resolutions and the diligent work their authors have done, that we could seek the will of the body if motions could be made to refer on those for which we do not have time for full debate. And so I graciously ask you, after we debate Resolution 5, if that would be a possibility.
Absolutely. And Will, that is actually already in the rules, so we will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution 5, found on page 152, titled Resolution for Holston Conference District Renaming, submitted by Larry Dial of Knoxville, Tennessee. Picking up with the therefores. Be it therefore resolved that we rename the districts of the Holston Conference according to geographic identifiers that involve the names of the large communities and cities they are located in. Scenic South would become Chattanooga. Hiawassee would become Cleveland. Smoky Mountain would become Maryville. Tennessee Valley would become Knoxville. Mountain View would become Morristown. Three Rivers would become Johnson City. Appalachian would become Big Stone Gap. Clinch Mountain would become Abingdon. New River would become Wytheville. Friends, the struggle is real. The committee recognizes that. I recognize that. Recently, when I was exasperated with one of my children for the difficulty they were having learning their number 9 times tables, I considered the difficulty I had learning the 9 district names. We believe this merits consideration, but we believe that common language and the language we use to identify ourselves is of such importance that it also merits further study. It is the recommendation of the committee that this resolution be referred to the Holston Conference strategy team. Bishop, it is my understanding that that motion would need to come from the floor to refer.
Okay, we have the motion has been made and it was seconded, okay? And let me just ask, before we proceed, Mike Eastridge is our chair of the strategy team. Is this a task that if the body desires, the strategy team would be willing to undertake?
Having done it before, I think we're up to the task. If I could just speak real quickly, one of the reasons giving some deference to the strategy team to make that decision is because as we go through this restructuring again, based on the number of disaffiliations that have taken place in our conference, you know, some of these cities may be in the same district, or I mean, it limits our ability to frame where those district boundaries are if we're limiting it to just a city. So you may count that as a speech in favor. Since I've been given both voice and vote.
Yes, that's right. And thank you. And so that is a speech for. Are there any speeches against this referral that was made by Jason Gaddis? Yes. Okay, over here. Please go to the microphone.
Bishop, my name is Chase Krickenberger, and I am a pastor in the Tennessee Valley District. I actually had to just think about it because these district names are not natural to me. I understand the consideration of the committee, and I think if we were developing entirely new names that had not been used in the past, I would agree it would be best referred to the strategy team. However, I think a referral in this instance is not necessary, as these are the historical names previously used by districts. And I trust as we enter the redistricting period again, that the strategy team can make the decision as to which names to eliminate and to keep in the future should we adopt this resolution today. So I do not support referring this to committee, and I do support keeping it, adopting this resolution, partially because I'm from the Clinch Mountain District originally, and I still call it the Abingdon District most of the time, and I think these names were kind of a silly adoption that we did however many years ago. So thank you.
Okay, so that is a speech against referral. Okay. Okay. Let's go over here. Thank you.
Donna Yaney from the Smoky Mountain District, and yes, I had to stop and think because we're in the process of moving, and I had to think about where I was, but then I do that often, sorry. I'm speaking to refer because we are going to be redistricting, there's going to be change, and I don't see making a change only to change again, because districts would have to change stationary, they would have to change all the letterhead, everything that they do. And if you know offices and you know the change it would go, and then they would have to change again, I think that would be an unnecessary expense. And I think we should wait and see what happens and then make the change one time. instead of changing twice. So I say we table it, see what the restructuring happens, and make the change at that time.
Okay, that was a speech for the motion to refer. You used the word table, but that was a speech for the motion to refer. Okay, go to microphone 1. We will hear what your motion is and determine whether or not it's in order.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Harris from the Scenic South District. I am clergy at St. Luke. My motion is to table this resolution indefinitely. I want the strategy team to be free from any binding and allow them to, I trust that the Holy Spirit of God is going to move in them, and maybe, just maybe, we might have a new set of names, maybe, and maybe not. But I trust them that the most important work that they are doing, right? And I don't want to, as Mike just said, bind them up with anything for that work. So I would like to table this motion indefinitely, this resolution indefinitely.
Thank you, and we appreciate the effort. The motion on the floor is to refer, and refer trumps postponing indefinitely.
Okay.
So if you had gotten to it before the person who made a motion to refer, this would have been appropriate. But thank you. That's ruled out of order. Okay, we have 2 noes to the referral and 1 yes. Are there any others who want to speak in favor?
2, 4, and
You can call the question if the body is ready to vote. So that requires 2/3 vote.
the motion.
Okay, so we need to give people the opportunity to give 3 speeches for and 3 against, unless nobody else wants to speak. And if that's the case, then the call to the question would be appropriate. Does anyone else want to speak either for or against this motion to refer? You ready to vote? Okay. If you're in favor of referring Resolution 5 to the strategy team, say yes.
Yes.
If you're opposed, say no.
No.
The motion carries. Thank you very much, Will, for your work and for the work of your team. We are grateful for that. And these other, yes, please express. And I will just read to you from Rule 4.7.2 what will happen to the other petitions, the ones we did not address today. Any petition or resolution properly included in the book of reports that is not discussed during the annual conference session shall be automatically referred to the entity or entities as determined by the Committee on Petitions and Resolutions to which the petition or resolution would relate for the consideration by that entity. So these will be considered by the proper entities. You're ready for a break, and so am I. So it is 4:10 on the dot, and we are going to take a 15-minute break. We will resume sharply at 4:25.
If you would join in with me as we gather back together again and sing this very familiar hymn that we all know and we've been singing for years and years. Okay, will you join in with me? As the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth after thee. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone may my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee. Can you sing that along with me one time? Sing it along with me. As the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth after thee. Sounds mighty good. Come on and sing with me. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee. You alone, come on. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone may my spirit, Lord, let our spirits yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship. And I long to worship thee. Praise God.
Why does it have a smell? I don't know. Wait, I didn't know worship could smell. Me either. That's just confusing. It smells like victory. No. Yes. Yes. Sometimes it smells like people's sweat. We'll like each other's arms. We'll get like real close and like we'll sing. We'll like wah wah. It smells like sweat.
It depends. On Monday, Thursday, it normally smells like oil. On a normal day, it smells like room. On communion, it smells like bread and grape juice. It smells like something good that's happening. It just smells like dead fish in there, like gross dead fish.
Oh, man.
I think it smells like strawberry jelly. It smells like flowers. I don't know if they spray that perfume in there, but it smells good and kind of smelly in there, like both, like sweat smelly.
Worship smelling is just a strange thought. The more worship stinks, the more you're doing it well. Body odor stinks. Body odor, when you're sweating, you're doing it right. Yes. Body odor comes from people who are happy. Happy people worship.
Yeah?
Yep.
Thank you for that very much. At this time, I'm going to recognize Doug and Carolyn Fairbanks. They have a word to bring to us. Microphone 1, please.
Opportunity. I've always wanted the opportunity to stand in front of a large group of people and say, I married well.
All in favor, say aye. If you're opposed, say no. All right, we agree with you, Doug.
And I married well for a lot of reasons, but one is the sister-in-law who came along. which is Ruby Brown. And we know that for 37 years, she has been engaged in one of the most splendid ministries of administration that this conference could ever hope for. And Carolyn and I, after hearing about the New Voices campaign, have given a $10,000 check to Mary to be the first gift in honor of Ruby. And Mary says someone has already jumped in because they want to be the second to give. So thank you for this opportunity, Bishop, to share our love for a very special person, Ruby Brown. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for inspiring us with your generosity. At this time, I am going to invite Reverend Mickey Rainwater, who is our Board of Ordained Ministry Chair, to come and present his report to us.
Bishop Wallace Pageant and members of the annual conference, this morning my colleague in ministry, David Tabor, stood and said it was going to be a quick 10 minutes. I am going to try and outdo his 10 minutes. Thank you, friends, for the honor of standing before you again for a seventh and a final year as the chair of your Holston Conference Board of Ordained Ministry. I say to you that it has been an unexpected honor for me to serve the Holston Conference in this way. This role was something that I never dreamed of when I came here to Lake Junaluska for annual conference for the very first time at age 17 as my home church's lay member in 1978. That makes this my 46th consecutive annual conference. I stand before you today grateful for this annual conference. I am grateful for all who have invested in me, for all of you who have been patient with me, for all who have been graceful to me, first as a layperson, then as clergy, and now most recently in the role as the chair of the Board of Ordained Ministry. Country boy come to town in 1978 would never have imagined what his future would hold or what God had in store. In the coming year, the Board of Ordained Ministry will be led by Don Hanshew as your chair, Glenna Manning as the vice chair, and Lori Hale as secretary. The Board of Ordained Ministry is elected by the annual conference and charged with the primary responsibility of the enlistment and recruitment of ministerial leadership for our churches and other ministry settings, as well as examining candidates for fitness for ministry. Our roles and our responsibilities are described in our book of discipline over several pages. We serve you, the Holston Annual Conference. I want to express my appreciation to all the members of the Conference Board of Ordained Ministry, laity, and clergy, because we recognize that our work is very layered, and I recognize the hours that you serve and that you are greatly appreciated. Friends, you'll find the membership of the Board of Ordained Ministry on page 8 of the errata and addendum. You will also find the report of the Board of Ordained Ministry on page 50 of the Book of Reports, and reports from groups related to the Cabinet and the Board of Ordained Ministry on pages 51 and 52. The Board of Ordained Ministry acknowledges the need for greater diversity among our candidates for ministry, those being licensed, commissioned, and ordained. And we remain committed to finding ways to increase our ethnic diversity. Last year, I introduced to the annual conference the topic of Safe Gatherings certification for all clergy. Safe Gatherings is not the same as Safe Sanctuaries. Safe Gatherings is not another name for Safe Sanctuaries. It is not a rebranding of Safe Sanctuaries. Safe sanctuaries typically references the policies that each local church is tasked with creating that relate to the boundary issues in the local church. Safe gatherings is a tool that could be used as part of your safe gathering policy, but it is not a policy. It is a background check process. In the safe gatherings process, one has a background check, a sexual predator list check, a motor vehicle check, credit check, reference check, and you undergo a 2-hour training in issues that are related to boundaries. Safe gatherings has been used to screen all persons who enter the candidacy process for credentialed ministry in Holston since late 2019. It meets the requirement of the Book of Discipline for background, motor vehicle, sexual predator, and credit check. It's also been used in relation to other fellowship pastors who serve with us. Now, here's where you as clergy and lay members need to connect. All pastors of the Holston Annual Conference are now required to be Safe Gatherings certified. This action was supported by the Board of Ordained Ministry and the Appointment Cabinet. This requirement is an expression of the concern and care that the Cabinet and the Board of Ordained Ministry have for the churches and the people of our annual conference. So clergy, feel your laity check with you to make sure that you are following through as we approach Charge Conference season, and laity, feel free to support your clergy as this requirement is before them. So all pastors must have completed their certification process by the end of this year, preferably by the time of their Charge Conference. You will present your district superintendent with a copy of your Safe Gatherings certification. There is some cost involved, and we encourage congregations to include the cost of at least $75 for certification that lasts for 3 years, and this process will need to be repeated every 3 years. On a different note, the University Senate of the United Methodist Church has now approved all seminary requirements can be completed online depending on the seminary and its curriculum. Our Holston Board of Ordained Ministry has voted to support the University Senate recommendation. The work of the Conference Board of Ordained Ministry could not be accomplished without a wonderful team of laity and clergy who form district committees on ministry. If you are a member of a district committee on ministry, would you stand so that we might express our appreciation to you as well? Thank you for the time that you put in to helping move individuals into the role of clergy. The work of this board could in no way be completed as effectively without the chairs of its respective divisions, orders, and committees who provide many volunteer hours of leadership on their teams. For those who are members of our Board of Ordained Ministry for the annual conference, would you stand so that we might acknowledge you as well? Over the last 7 years, I have been blessed to work with an incredible group of laity and clergy. Thank you for the way in which you have faithfully engaged and represented the work of the Board of Ordained Ministry. We certainly couldn't do what we do without the staff who support our work. Terry Goodman, our conference secretary and director of clergy services and clergy concerns, thank you. Brandy Williams, administrative assistant in the office of conference secretary and clergy services, thank you. And Sue Weber may have retired, but she continues to provide invaluable support to the work of our annual conference. So friends, we, the Board of Ordained Ministry, We appreciate the opportunity to serve the annual conference. We look forward to our continued journey with those who are discerning and responding to God's call on their lives. We continue to be grateful for the opportunities in Holston where boys and girls and young adults hear and sort out their calling to ministry. Camping Ministries, Resurrection, Wesley Foundations, just to name a few, are pathways into ministry. We urge our clergy to have conversations with congregants of all ages who you discern there to be a calling to ministry upon their lives. Those of you who are lay members of the annual conference, when you see that individual who you suspect there is a call to ministry in their life, feel free to name it. God has worked through the decades, through the centuries, by those who come alongside and as a faithful community say, yes, we see the gifts for ministry in you. And now, the Lord willing, Bishop Wallace Padgett, this concludes the report of the Board of Ordained Ministry and my last time to make this report. Thank you for allowing me to make this presentation.
Thank you, Mickey. And Mickey, we are so grateful. On behalf of this annual conference, I want to tell you how grateful we are for your 7 years of leadership with the Board of Ordained Ministry. Will you please express your appreciation? Friends, at this time, we will hear the report from our Dismantling Racism Task Force. Reverend Leah Burns, who is our new Director of Multicultural Ministries, will come now and present this report.
Good afternoon. Better. Good afternoon. And good afternoon, Bishop. As you heard, my name is Reverend Leah Burns, and I bring greetings from my church, the historic Lenincini United Methodist Church in East Knoxville. I bring greetings. My home church, that is, for one more month. As you heard the bishop mention, I have been appointed to a new position, and it is the Associate Director of Multicultural Ministries for the Holston Conference with the actually, I didn't get it right, did I? It's a long one. Associate Director of Connectional Ministries for Multicultural Ministries. That's the first and last time I'm going to say it in front of the microphone. Just call it Multicultural Ministries. I'm going to begin that on July 1. It's a brand new ministry area for Holston. It's being designed to specifically lead the work of anti-racism, of multicultural ministry, work that is central, it's essential to who we say we are as United Methodists. It's essential and foundational to our pronouncements that we have as United Methodists. And now it's time for our conference to be intentional about getting the work done. It's past time, actually. And I am super excited because we're doing this now. This is the time to do it. And I can't wait to start. As I said, this ministry area is newly established, but the work of multicultural ministry is not new. It's actually old. It's old because God always intended the work of his churches to be multicultural. Of course, you know the classic New Testament scripture, the witness to multicultural church. It's described in Acts chapter 2 with the unraveling of the ancient Babel confusion that existed. Not by canceling out all of the linguistic differences, but by the amazing outpouring of the Holy Spirit on each person that was gathered there. And that's my hope for multicultural ministries. To God, The multicultural ministry of the church is not optional. It's not extra. It's not a nice thing to do. It can't possibly be optional. And it can't be that way for us either. The early church was reflected and embodied in a cultural mix of their community in which they resided. And if we, as the churches of the Holston Conference, truly understand our mission, then we will reflect that as well. We will incorporate the cultural, the linguistic, the racial differences and mixes that we find in our greater communities. We can and we must do this work. That is, if we are intentional about growing. And there is no better time than now to commit to do this work. In Acts chapter 2, verse 7, it says, "In the last days, God says, I will pour out my Holy Spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young will see visions, and your elders will dream dreams." I've been doing a lot of dreaming here recently. Actually, ever since that Thursday morning when Reed Shell called me a few weeks ago and told me that I had been appointed by Bishop Wallace Pageant and the appointment cabinet to the associate director position. I've been dreaming about multicultural and multiracial and multi-ethnic ministries. I've been dreaming about dismantling racism and the task force and what that can mean for the ethnic and racial communities that are in our conference. I've been dreaming about what it can look like here in Holston. This time is the time on our conference program that is dedicated for conference reports, dedicated for resolutions, which we're all celebrating are done, and the information that is provided by all the ministry areas. But I don't have any of that today. I don't. I haven't started my job yet. I'm still finishing up at Lenancini. But I have had the opportunity to dream, my friends. And so in the little bit of time that I have with you today, I want to share with you my dreams. I want to invite you to dream with me, to use your imagination and dream with me, to think about what it might look like if we were truly a multicultural, multiracial, and multi-ethnic conference. So in my dream, okay, this is my dream. I'm going to ask you in a little while what yours is, but in my dream, multicultural ministry is Christ-centered, first and foremost. It's Christ-centered, like it says in Colossians 3:16 and 17, and whatever you do, do it in the name of the Lord Jesus. And so in my dream, that's what multicultural ministry is focused on. We will be focused on doing the work of Jesus in our space. We will be set free in doing that by all that binds us. We won't be tied to a model of church life that has grown out of the past or grown out of a particular background. And we'll be delighted to share the gospel in lots of different ways that are different and different to different people. The multicultural ministry of my dream is also united and centralized around word and sacrament. It's essential for multicultural ministry. We must pay really close attention to God's word and to all that means, the central truth around that, the straightforwardness of those ways. We will pray together in my dream. We will trust the Spirit together in my dream. And we will avoid being prescriptive and judgmental about how the word is applied to others, or how they apply it themselves in their cultures and in their lives. But rather, what we will do is let the word speak into our situation and speak into their situations. In my dream, in Multicultural Ministries, we'll be down to earth and approachable, relatable. We'll rejoice in the diversity of God's world. We'll understand how the gospel can transform cultures, and we'll accept that no culture, not even ours, is the only way. But rather, if it's redeemed by Christ, if it's redeemed by the Holy Spirit, then it must be good. In my dream, the multicultural church is deeply attentive to the words and to the questions and to the responses and the journeys of all. We'll be listening closely to the entire community, to all the voices in my dream. We will foster dialogues frequently among groups. We'll step outside our comfort zone and mingle with people that might be unlike ourselves. We'll be listening as much as, or maybe even more than we're talking. We'll be working hard for open dialogue, respectful dialogue. We'll be honest about our journey and about our difficulties that we're having, and we'll be alert to see those signs in others. In Acts 2:46 and 47, it says, they broke bread in their homes, and they ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God. That's my dream. That's in my dream. My dream for multicultural churches is going to flourish as a safe place. And what I mean by that, it's safe for everyone to be and to do. Safe to disagree. Safe to say, I don't understand. And it's safe to make suggestions and to say something that might be out in left field, perhaps. We'll practice good manners, as my mother used to tell me, good manners or respectful dialogue towards everybody. Even if they don't hear us, we'll listen to them. We'll be avoiding any disrespectful or any inconsiderate talk to make the environment safe for everybody, so there won't be the pressure to, like, do I say it right? Did I say it right? Did I upset someone? So that's my multicultural dream. It's also going to be dynamic and creative and multifaceted. It has to be creative. And that's exactly the opposite of the approach that sometimes people take to this. It's going to encourage expressions of differences, different cultures, different languages within our communities and in our church life. It's going to expand our understanding of what's possible. And it's going to guide us to what is truly important. It's going to be visible and audible in all of what we do. Yes, our words will be consistent, but what we do will matter even more. In my multicultural dream, it's going to be a wonderful storytelling community. Storytelling and truth-speaking community. A story-creating community. Each person, each culture, each church has a unique and a valuable story to tell. And I want, in my dream, everybody has the opportunity to share their story. Share it in love and proclaiming the acts of God for the people. We see glimpses of that already. Last night I had the opportunity to have dinner with the Hispanic ministry folks. And I didn't want that dinner to be over. I was just so welcomed. I was so excited to be there. I learned so much. That's the kind of environment that I would like for our multicultural ministry to have. In my dream, multicultural ministry speaks everyone's language, just like the early church. Everyone understands. So youth and people without a church background and people with different family situations and speaking different community lingos, all will be welcome. Worship studies, devotional material, music, children's ministry, all will be reflected in multiple languages, multiple cultures, so that the gospel can connect with each person in their way. Is this practical? Remember, it's a dream, okay? Dreams don't have to be practical. It's my dream, and I think we can make it happen. I wish for this to happen. The other thing in my dream is that it's participatory. We're going to remind ourselves that every individual needs to participate. It's okay if our worship service isn't totally polished. It's okay if we make space for people to contribute. We're going to show people how we're interested in them, in their family connections, in their skills, and in their talents. We're going to be alert to any hidden assumptions which inadvertently create an insider or an outsider group. In multicultural ministries, in my dream anyway, responsibility is going to be shared. People will be supported to do things in their own way. People's ownership of their own culture, their language, their skills will be recognized, but shared. And we won't have to take over. We're going to share the responsibility. Everyone will take a turn. Everyone will be flexible. Everyone takes a share of the responsibility. It's going to be great. This dream is going to be so great. Multicultural ministry is also intentional work. We are not going to leave things to chance. We're going to be intentional about doing something. Even if we get tired or we start something and it just doesn't work, we're going to keep trying. We're going to be intentional about what we're going to do. We're going to be willing to be dialoguing with people. We're going to do the things that we're gifted to do. And we're going to foster regular consultation and evaluation and partnership with all the communities in our areas. So that's my dream for multicultural ministry. That's my dream. I don't know about you. Do you like it? I love it. And my hope for you is that each of you will have a dream as well. I want you to dream a dream for multicultural ministry in Holston. I want you to think about what that can look like. What are some of the components? What are some of the ways that your dream can be realized? And then I want you to let me know what's on your heart. If you wouldn't mind to share with me what you think your dream for multicultural ministry might be. Now, I warn you, all of this work is going to be hard. It's challenging. It's not an easy job. Many people are saying, wow, Pastor Leah, that's a big job. And you know what? It is. But I also serve a bigger God. Amen? I serve a bigger God. And I know what God wants us to do. God has already shown us what we are to do, has shown us what our church is to be. We are not to worship separately. We are to worship together. Years and years ago, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said, and it's often quoted, 11 o'clock on Sunday is the most segregated and separated hour in this country, right? Many of you were saying that with me as I said it. But you know what? Not that much has changed. Not that much has changed. But I believe, in my dream, and you all are in my dream, by the way, I believe we can make that different. I believe, Holston, that we can. I have hope in you all. I know you can do this. I've been in this conference for a long time. Started out as a layperson and then became a pastor. And I've seen you do this. I know you can do it. And it's exciting when we do. I'm excited to think about it. I know it's going to be challenging. There is not a quick fix. And Bishop, I did not bring my magic wand with me when I said yes to this job. So I don't have that. But I have you all, right? I have all of you who are going to have your dreams right alongside mine. And we can make this happen. It's going to be so cool. It's going to be wonderful and beautiful. I think multicultural ministry is a wonderful opportunity for us. It's a wonderful place for everybody to participate and for everybody to make it their own. So you have an obligation, and I charge you, Holston Conference, I charge you to dream your dream, okay? This multicultural ministry is going to be yours. It's not mine. I'll be there right with you, but it's yours, and I want you to dream your dream. And if you don't mind, please share it with me so that I can incorporate that into what this looks like for the future. So no, this time I did not have a report, Bishop. I just had a dream. I have a dream, and I have a lot of love. That's all I came here with today. And I love the Holston Conference. I love each of you. Just like God loves you, I strive to love you more. And so we can do this. And I'm excited to be able to lead this work with you as multicultural ministry takes shape and really takes off. Even though we're late to the game, other conferences have started theirs. I don't care. We're going to come and we're going to surpass them. I know it. So, Bishop, that's my information for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leah, and we look forward to seeing how we progress in the area of multicultural ministries under your leadership. So we find ourselves at the end of the business for the day. We have worked hard. We've been respectful to each other. We've debated, we've worshiped, we've laughed, and we have done a lot of work. So thank you so much for that and for the spirit in which you conduct our business. You are a generous people. I told you earlier about $36,000 or so has been received thus far for yesterday evening's mission offering. We approved today a campaign for next year's mission offering of $1.5 million. We heard about the first gift of $10,000, and that another one is coming, and I'm sure many more will be. In addition, we collected for Change for Children $26,401. That is a lot of change. It is now time for me to turn to our conference secretary for any announcements he has.
Following the trustees report, someone came forward and said, are there forms that local churches should use in relation to the Boy Scouts? And I've been told that you can go to this website, should be easy to remember, methodistscouter.org. And you should find the forms and other materials that you need at that website, methodistscouter.org. Also, we have a request from the communications team. And they say, as we look forward to future annual conferences and our ability to vote in a timely manner, especially during the years when we vote for general conference and jurisdictional delegates, our communications department is working on finding the best and most economical way to proceed. To help us in this matter, we would like to take a poll of our gathering today. By a show of hands, is there anyone here that doesn't have or would be unable to borrow a device to vote through in an online service? The devices that can be used would be smartphones, tablets such as an iPad or Amazon Fire, or even a laptop computer. So we just want to see a show of hands to get an idea of if that would make it difficult for some of you to vote. Would that make it difficult for any of you to vote? I don't see any hands at all going up, Bishop.
That's right. So if that is difficult for you and you chose not to raise your hand, please say something to Tim Jones, our Director of Communication, before we leave tomorrow, or send him an email by early next week. Thank you very much. Okay, it is now time to conclude this afternoon session with a prayer, and I invite Oli Castillo forward for the prayer. I remind you that we will gather at 7 o'clock this evening. You heard Bishop Palmer preach yesterday evening. This evening he's going to be teaching on sacramental theology. What a wonderful emphasis for us as we worship together. I know you'll want to be here for that. So 7 o'clock sharp this evening.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for everything you've done, and thank you that all these people here are working for you, doing your will, and I hope that in the future they can do more for you. And I ask you to bless everyone in this building and bless them as they go to eat food so they can be stronger for the next day. In your name, amen.
Thank you.